What do you call a person or a group of people who double down on the ideas and on the policies that have already proven to be a failure? On Saturday, May the 10th, the coalition of the willing traveled to Kyiv to meet with Zelensky. French President Macron, British PM Starmer, newly elected German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, and Polish PM Donald Tusk arrived in Kyiv on May the 10th, and on the same day, Zelensky announced an unconditional ultimatum to Russia, a 30-day comprehensive, meaning in the air, at sea, and on land, ceasefire starting on May the 12th. This is fully backed by the European leaders and the United States. So if Russia calls for such conditions, that would be considered as an effort to prolong the war and undermine diplomacy. Why? Because this is coercion, and also because Russia specifically said that it seeks a long-term solution to the conflict. It wants long-term peace, and it doesn't want a temporary ceasefire as Europe rearms Ukraine. Therefore, it is only fair to conclude that these are demands that are not grounded in reality, and they don't really consider any of the previously communicated interests by the Russian Federation.
Russian President Vladimir Putin offered to resume direct peace talks with Ukraine in Istanbul on May the 15th. He said Russia is interested in long-term peace initiatives and offers to hold direct talks with Kyiv.
He reiterated that Russia has always been ready and open for negotiations, but pressuring Russia into a temporary ceasefire without discussing long-term peace and long-term solutions is useless. Now, Trump is considering adding more sanctions on Russia at this time. This renewed push for economic coercion on Russia signals a degree of desperation, because clearly the United States has very little, if any at all, leverage over Russia. On May the 9th, the EU announced a significant financial commitment to support Ukraine, pledging 1 billion euros sourced from the interest generated by frozen Russian central bank assets. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas, speaking from Lviv, Ukraine, stated, "We have just made available 1 billion euros for the Ukrainian defense industry so that Ukraine can better defend itself." We don't really hear Kaja Kallas, the top EU diplomat, ever speak of peace in Ukraine or anywhere else. Belgian Foreign Minister Prévost has proposed that Western governments should make legal agreements to share the financial risk of keeping Russian central bank assets frozen, especially if European Union sanctions are not renewed in the future. European officials are concerned that if these sanctions actually lapse, these funds may need to be returned back to Russia, and they want to prevent that from happening. Seizing Russian sovereign assets is nothing short of theft and a violation of international norms. This isn't really up for a debate or a discussion. Actions like these are the reasons why the global majority seeks to de-risk from assets denominated in US dollars and from Western-led financial institutions such as the IMF and World Bank. But the long-term consequences of these actions are completely dismissed as short-term ambitions to keep the bloody conflict going overshadows any voices of reason in the EU and in Europe in general.